that's a pretty simple, we just like to move it literally directly across from where it was. That will service just the campers, and the food trucks, if they have gas, they would use it as well, but the house and store would need it, so that's the point, that's the point of that one.
Okay. Is there any difficulty with using it for the house as well as for refilling?
No, they thought that was great. They were like, oh.
It seems like a good idea to me, but I know from serving on ships, you can't mix your cargo fuel and your propulsion fuel.
They're both propane. The house is propane heated, and
right. I don't say mixing fuels. I'm saying you can't sell your propulsion fuel. You need propulsion fuel, and you can't siphon it off from your propulsion from your cargo tanks to your propulsion fuel tanks on a ship. It's against the laws. So I didn't know if that same applied to
it's identical. We own Winding River Campground in Exeter, New Hampshire. We have a filling station there as well.
Okay, no, that's great. I just didn't know if
does the same thing.
If those rules applied to you guys. Apparently not.
No, because you could fill 20, 30, 100 pound tanks off of that filling unit itself, and then they do a separate meter to meter the house itself off the same tank. So they just fill it, and then we're charged by what is used out of the 2 meters, right? That's how we manage that tank. So.
How big is that holding tank?
They're 1,000-gallon tanks.
And that's not changing?
Nope, same as what was approved. I don't know whatever happened to the one that was there, but the pad and everything was there for it. It was to me just a bad location, and moving it down more inside, closer to everything, is more appropriate. And then we have to put bollards and rocks around it to protect it, but that's, Irving has all those requirements. And
So Glenn, correct me if I am right, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but moving the propane tank means a change to the site plan, but that would be an amendment to the site plan. So it's not quite the formal full site plan process. That would just be showing us on the plans where it's going and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we have that drawing that shows it moved, and there's a playground, and we want to do a basketball court as well that shows on the plan that we do have.
So you're doing a lot. You're doing a basketball court, you're doing a playground, and you're moving the propane
playground
tank,
is there, and we're told, but a lot of these things they don't require us to come here to put a playground in or to do a basketball court but they are on our plan. We wanted to show all that, just that's everything that's on the property. And the food truck is mobile. It's not permanent to the property, so it doesn't go on a plan except for where our location would be for food trucks, which is the parking lot that's up front by the road. I don't know if you're all familiar with that.
We are, but we have food, and we also have,
People are familiar with that.
we're very familiar with that. Next door, they wanted to put food trucks, and so we have now a food truck ordinance.
Yeah, I read it, and luckily we meet it, so I was like, oh. And the state ordinance we meet as well there. We have bathrooms, which most people don't have, and I noticed that it's not required to have bathrooms with food trucks, but we do have the pavilion that has extra bathrooms, and when the leach field for the pavilion was built, it was built twice the size of what was supposed to be there, which Ray informed me across the street, which was the prior owner, and then our septic guy confirmed the size of the field that was there, and he was that was good for them. He was like, oh, this is good. It's a big field. So, do you have any questions?
There were some direct questions about the degree to which the food trucks would be open to the public, and how that would influence the use of the pavilion if that became a conflict for your patrons at all. And also, if it was a little unclear as to whether or not there would be more than one food truck on the site at a time, or if they would be rotate in and out.
Yeah, so ideally, 2 at a time potentially would be the ideal thing, but it's 1 right now is what we would be putting there, and obviously testing the grounds and seeing if it's a good location too, if people are going to go to it. It's a fried seafood food truck. It's Seabasket. We have another location in Bedford, New Hampshire on Route 101 at Amherst Gardens, sitting right out in front of their facility. Again, that's new this year as well. So, and Seabasket is a restaurant that exists in Maine on the seacoast. So, Scott Forrester is the proprietor the restaurant side of things.
So with the location of the food truck in the parking lot close to 125, is the primary intent to have it service the patrons at the campground, or is it to
Yeah,
have
my
people on
first role
125
was like,
stopping by?
my other campground, we have a restaurant in the campground inside of the main store and office building. And first thing when I got into this one and bought it was like, it's lacking all the amenities. It doesn't have anything. They haven't done anything in a long time. I hear all the stories how beautiful and great the campground was like years ago, and the last owners haven't done anything with it. So providing amenities and food is a big one, having that for the campers themselves. So that'd be, for me, it'd be great to have that for them. But also, to justify its being there, you have to have it to the public, which is normal for a campground anyways. Campgrounds are open to a public anyways. Like the use of a campground, we charge a day fee for people to come into your campground. That's usually how it works. If they want to use your pool or any amenities you offer, so anybody gets to come into them.
I think you used the word seasonal food trucks, which
Yes.
is why we were wondering whether you were having multiples, and that was up in the air. We didn't
The
understand.
season is following the campground season and not trying to get into the other,
Okay.
the winter months.
Yep.
I mean, I guess if it was hugely successful and people want it, then, that'd be another conversation, but right now it's just in line with the same season that we're in, which is now to basically November or October 15th, right?
Our winters are not like they used to be.
We've seen that. And
Thank you.
they're warmer and people are, one thing that has been brought up is, even Christmas trees, and sometimes they'll use the food trucks as like, coffee and hot cocoa and Christmassy things. Sometimes you'll do that. It'll be like a pop-up. I've seen that going on. This is fairly new to us as well, but this is kind of the plan. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things we had a concern about, along with the number of trucks on site at one time, is the amount of parking. The lot doesn't look that big, even expanded a little bit as you're doing now, but because food trucks is basically a restaurant business, and there are a lot of state rules and regulations that you'd have to follow and get permits for and all that kind of stuff. One of them is the septic capacity for the trucks themselves, if they're going to be putting in, or if they're going to be emptying off site. And I know you said you had someone tell you that the septic system's big enough to handle the extra load, so to speak, but how many parking places?
So they produce just gray water. They don't produce septic.
Okay,
So
yeah.
keeping that in mind, it's
Right.
Not impacting a septic or sewer system in the same way that a full sewer does.
Right, so it'd just be the
It's just gray
clientele
water.
would have a.
In our case, we have a site that was kind of right up against the fence. There was a site there that has all the hookups, the electric, the water, the sewer, but they built a leach field in front of it, so the site can't be used for a camper anymore. So we have all the services right there at the edge of the parking lot that could be utilized for a truck. And we do have ample parking. I mean, I've squared up the parking lot to its original print. I wouldn't say that I've enlarged it at all. It's exactly where it was. It had just continued to grow in a little bit.
Yeah.
I brought in all those rocks and tried to create like a nice border and landscaping for more plants. Plans to put like more shrubs and flowers along the highway right there too, along that whole section. So, but there is quite a bit of, there's over 40 spaces there. So a truck in the top corners, you'd still have ample. And up there, you'd also put some picnic tables at it. But other locations, I've been to lots of these locations. I don't know if you guys have around the country too, but food trucks, you don't see a lot of parking and people kind of come and go. It's more of like a fast food business than it is a sit-down restaurant business. They're not being served. They get stuff, they go, they eat pretty quick. We just have the luxury of having the pavilion to be able to offer that.
So I think that was one of the things that was leading towards the site plan review, was we've had food truck requests in the past, and they've had been subject to site plan review.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same business as what was on the property, so.
We have a lot of space.
That would be the type of thing that the town engineer would have to see, and the health officer and things like that would be.
Yep.
All the specifications for the septic and for getting permits from the state and things like that, so.
Yeah.
That's why I believe that, because it's a different use, that it would have to go through the site plan review, and I think we talked about that last time and came to that conclusion. So, whereas unlike moving the propane tank, that's not a change in use.
We had a talk with, I can't recall his name, but one of the conversations was basically said to me, which was we could just put a food truck on one of our campsites and that'd be the end of it, because we're already set up for that kind of service, and it's not a change or anything, because we're a campground is the only weird, for us, we're not like a business up on the highway that has a parking lot with some other thing going on. Being a campground, we already have those facilities, gratefully, right, they're already in place, and we have the capacity to handle this. We have
Right,
3
well, that's
leach
what
fields.
you'd have to demonstrate, and that's on,
Yeah.
brought up. Sounds like it wouldn't be a problem, but it does need to be reviewed because it's a different use. Fortunately, we do have that as a permitted use in C3, and we have the ordinance that covers it, so it's pretty short ordinance.
Yeah, I just read it. I don't know what I would provide for a site plan for this or any type of review, because it's already all there and it's already in the plan that everyone has. There's no change to the site plan. It's a wheeled vehicle going into a parking lot. So we already have all the systems, but I'm happy to,
Well, the site plan is not just the physical layout, it's the use.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's not unusual for a campground to have food services.
No,
on a
or
campground.
for a camp store or whatever else, but for the patrons, this is basically a new use. It's opening up a food facility for non-camping use.
Yeah, but those are governed by the state, and the health department governs the food
Right,
trucks.
yeah, and that's why our ordinance is so short. It just says,
So once we get, we go to the process of getting the permit from the state, and they have to allow it, and then health department, they're gonna manage the truck itself.
Right, you need to update your site plan so that if there were emergency on site, the police and fire would know what to expect or where the playground was and so forth and so on. So those types of things should be duly noted on your site plan.
We have the physical plan
Okay.
done that I can present. I've shown it to Glenn, he's seen the plan. We had other things on there that are dreams, so, obviously we bring it back to like what the actual plan is, but
I also had
we're
Brian-
dreaming.
I also had Brian from the fire department come out and I showed him where everything was. So that was done already.
I noticed on the site plan, on at least the copy that we have here, that your parking lot doesn't say how many parking spaces there are.
Yeah, it's big.
Well, so the question I'm asking is, are there enough spaces for the overflow parking for the campground, the food trucks, and the food truck patrons, and how are you planning to handle traffic?
There's plenty of flow for traffic, but there's plenty of parking for the campers themselves. The campers themselves are only allowed to have 1 vehicle per site. That's our campground policy, so. But there's ample room down there along the road, the way that you can park parallel with the sites versus on the sites themselves. I don't think that these add I don't see this adding a lot of impact to this property, traffic-wise at all.
I think if you get to
very
4
minimal.
food trucks, that might change things.
We're starting with one.
With one, I didn't
Again, it's a
see-
dream, I always think of the bigger picture of like a dream, but our plan is one, that is what we're asking for, is just 1 food truck, is to start with this one and see how it goes, obviously. But if it's successful, then that's a conversation to come back and say, hey, this is, something we think we can do, and then we would have to come up with a bigger plan for parking and other things, but that's not what we're asking for right now.
Okay. But if you ask for 1 and then you want 2, you have to come back.
Yes, no, but I would love to come back to ask for 2, because that means it's working, and it's successful,
That's kind of why I was asking about the intent to advertise or anything like that, because as 1 food truck, theoretically, the impact would be little to none. Honestly, just a benefit to the campers that are on site.
Yeah,
But as soon as you go out and you're like, hey, we have food trucks now at, X address on 125,
yeah.
that's when you get 50 people show up on a Sunday looking for seafood and booze and all that other stuff, so.
That would be there'd be a study as well for the highway and the impact of that. But I've loved the food city. I don't know if you've seen them, the food cities around the country. They're pretty cool. Like 10 trucks showing up and yes, very exciting. And it would be cool if one could exist there, but that is a much bigger picture
And
conversation.
It's entirely different. It's an entirely different enterprise.
Yeah, that's, there's one in Durham, New Hampshire, that's very successful. It's a seasonal one that opens up. I don't know how many trucks they exactly have, but
And there's no parking there, they still go.
Well, there's parking lots nearby that they
Yeah,
walk
on the
from.
opposite
yeah,
side, yeah.
there's
That's some of the imagery you get in your head, though. The truck that we'll put there, you're literally not gonna have more than probably, I mean, don't hold me to 2 cars, but they're gonna come and go. That's just the nature of the business. The real impact that he's providing me is all these campers that are able to use this. And then we have the benefit of that major thoroughfare that you can add another person here and there, you know, and you're only talking, I think, on average 3.5 people per car, right? So they're coming in one car, getting it, and they're taking it with them. They're
Or
not gonna-
takeout, yeah.
They're not gonna sit on the side of 125 and eat my lobster rolls, I can guarantee you that. Be nice. if
That's
we had
why our
ice cream, they
pavilion
could
would be
come back.
nice.
But we do have to have some sort of a plan with the changes that are occurring, particularly with the propane.
We can, I can send the set of plans over that I've shared with Glenn numerous times. I'll
So
take out my big dream stuff.
Are those plans capable of being an amendment to the site plan versus an entirely new site plan?
As long as we're holding it to just amendment to the site plan and not requiring that it be a surveyed, licensed land surveyor's plan, which I think is appropriate, not to have it be
Yeah,
a licensed land survey plan. Because we are talking about, my concern was when it morphed from one truck to more than one truck. That became an issue for me. But with it being one truck in a campground that's set up for vehicles exactly of this type, but on the magnitude of hundreds of them, as opposed to one, it really lessens the impact of the request. Having a dream that it becomes 10 trucks is lovely, but that's a really different thing by
Oh,
a
yeah.
magnitude of 10, let's say.
I shared all of my dreams with Glenn, so he was getting all of it coming at him from all
Please
kinds of
don't say
things. Not those campground dreams.
always nice to have ambition.
Well, the other aspect of this was current compliance, and the question came up when we got the first letter about food trucks, and actually it was about food sales, but was about the grading and fill work that's been going on down by the river, by the stream.
Sure.
Which is one of the shoreline protect streams in town. And the Conservation Commission, we have of our agenda tonight to look at some of the comments, and the Conservation Commission has commented on that. And the question is whether all that work with the excavator and with the adding fill and rocks and stuff would require a permit from the state and from the town.
There's been no fill added. Like, all of my rocks were delivered down there, which have been now moved up to their locations, being retaining walls and things by the parking lot and behind the new store. And the material that was moved out, which was brought to high ground, was piles of debris, sand, whatever one of the prior owners had literally piled up out
Yeah, I
there.
know, there's a lot of stuff out there, not all
So
of it.
that's what was being moved,
Natural.
and it was all relocated. There were tires, I mean, there was so much stuff in that
Oh, yeah.
along the highway part. And there's also somebody planted there's trees and all kinds of shrubs planted in those areas as well, which is strange, but. So prior use in there, I have no intentions of altering or affecting or being anywhere within like something that I'm not allowed to do, which, you know, I've done this a long time, so I know where I can and can't go. And
Yeah, and when we drive by, we see all that brown dirt and excavators and stuff, and
Yeah,
get
it's-
concerned, as Lynn pointed out at one meeting, that it gets flooded every year, it seems.
Yeah, and I wanted to move all that. There's glass that, I don't know what all that was from, but it's all full of glass and there's all kinds of stuff in it. And
Probably
that
the
whole
earlier pavilion, I think.
peninsula was like supposed to be, you know, it's all like kind of nice tenting. I guess the prior owner also had 20 sites out there with electricity and water, which still exists. There's water and power out on the peninsula. And it's set up as tenting is our plan right now. But there were 20 sites is what Ray was telling us, that he had power to 20 different sites over there at some point, so. That is a future plan that would require a site plan.
I did do a site walk, just from the highway to see what was going on, and I didn't see that there was anything close to the channel of the river. I did see the rocks that had been moved down there, but apparently they've been removed.
Yeah, back up.
And taken back up to the front. The only place I did see some activity that was muddy was on the side away from the river, and it looked like it was mucky because it was springtime muck. I mean, you really can't move around in a lot of places in New Hampshire in early April without making muck, unfortunately.
So the Conservation Commission sent to the planning board an email about a number of properties in town, and they did have one paragraph about yours, so we'll read that into the record. We have also noticed what looks like excavation going on at Golden Acres Campground. In the past, we've been made aware of complaints about septic issues there. The property is on a sizable stream, wetland, and great pond, and any alteration of terrain or revised site plan should be reviewed by the Conservation Commission and properly permitted.
Fully agreed.
Have other people taken a look at what, at the actual surface of the land down there? Because I didn't see movement of the surface of the land at all.
No.
I saw the placement of the rocks, and there were a lot of rocks, but they were also pulled back away from the stream channel a significant distance.
It appeared to me that they might better filter the water going to the stream.
That what?
It appeared to me that it might better filter the water going toward the stream.
Oh, perhaps. if they've been-
Stop runoff.
They're being used. I had them all delivered to one spot to then use them around the campground as landscaping.
Okay.
Had another project that had an abundance of rocks, and I thought this would be a great use for them, so.
Like up in the
That's
park.
good.
Yeah, no, if we move forward with some other plans, we will do a full site plan review. I know that if I want to try to do anything more on the peninsula, it will be used this year for tenting. That's kind of the purpose of it. If we go forth with anything more putting sites, that's a full site plan review. To me, that's a full change, and that would require some other things. They did have a septic guy out there to look at the land and stuff too. It's all sand, so there's some positive things about the land. And he's looked at our septic fields. I don't know what the complaint might be about septic, but we will certainly address it if we find one. I'm unaware of it at this point, but
They said in the past.
it's just beginning now. So I don't know what's gonna happen.
Okay, any further questions from the planning board?
Do we get to move on it now, or do we have to wait?
Oh, I don't see any reason why we can't make a move on it. Anyone like to make a motion?
What would be amended site plan?
To move to amend the site.
Amended site plan to allow for the movement of the propane tank and to allow for a single food truck to be used on the property during the camping season, which is defined in the camping ordinance.
And I would think also designate where the parking is.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So this would be done in this, as if it were the expedited site review.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, 'cause that means all they need to do is supply the plan layout for us, because that approval can be granted at just a public meeting. There isn't notification of abutters, there isn't any of that required if it's an expedited site review. So I want to make it clear, is that what the board is comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay, it appears so.
Good.
So the next step, Glenn, would be?
They would submit the plan to us and we would do the expedited. If they could get it to us soon, we could do that as
At our next meeting.
expedited site review at the May.
Yeah, I have it. I've sent it to Glenn numerous
Yeah,
times,
I
the
have seen
changes.
plans from them.
But we can probably have that submitted tomorrow. I'll remove the other stuff that's on it.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would just be like, what's all that?
It should have information about the parking places and septic.
Yep, it's all on the plan showing the septic, where it is now, septic fields, and I'll have them incorporate more parking spaces to the parking lot to show its parking as well, with the food truck location will actually be, and the movement of the propane tank to where it was to where it will be shown on there.
And probably it's good for them to show you the underground line for the house.
The trench.
Yeah, because
We can do that.
they don't want that on the plans, the fire department, no one want that.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Okay.
We'll get it on there.
So in order to be on the agenda for the May 21st meeting, which would be in 2 weeks, we would need all the plans in our office by noon on the 9th. Yep,
Well, I thought we weren't voting.
we don't need to vote. We're not voting until next week.
I would have seconded, but if we're going for an expedited site plan.
Yep.
Oh, then we can come in, then
Yeah.
we'll vote on that, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to leave this on or shut it off while I walk away?
I think you should leave that on.
Thank you.
Our next piece of business is Bresnahan Moving and Storage. Hi, Joe. How are you? Good, how are you? So, Joe, you do need to tell us your name and your address.
My address on hold?
I guess, so. Well, which is required for the record.
We should have the address.
I think the address for the facility.
My name is Joe Bresnahan, and the address is 250 Route 125, Kingston, New Hampshire.
And this meeting is a follow-up to the plantings.
To the plantings, you gave me a date of, I believe, April 30th, I think it was, and I was just ready to pull the trigger, and I'm dealing with Cameron's in Farmington, and he said, "Are you sure the town wants this done?" I said, "Yeah, here's the plan." He said, "Because they need to know that I'm gonna make a 10 to 12 foot racetrack around this whole property to get in here to plant these plantings." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you have 5 to 6 years of Mother Nature. You're not gonna replace 5 to 6 years of Mother Nature with 220 trees." He said, "So as long as they just make sure they're aware that we have to bring an excavator in here and make a track around wherever the plantings were, a track around there." So I called Glenn, and Glenn said, "Well, hold on." He said, "We just met last night." He said, "Don't do anything yet." He said, "Don't do anything yet until we..." So then the Camerons called me 2 days later, and they said, "The hardwoods are no problem at all, getting them in at any time. But if it gets warm out," and here we are today, 80, he said, "you might miss your green season, and you'd have to wait until early fall." So that's, but I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'm gonna plant them all and dig them up, whatever you want. I just want to be done.
My presumption, in talking with Joe, is that the plantings need to go in because that was what was approved.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't want the board to be dealing with a lot of what the heck is going on questions when this action takes place, because there is undergrowth out there that's gonna disappear. And so for some perception of screening, that's going to disappear with these new trees. That is what's expected on the plan. And so I just didn't want anyone to get blindsided by what this means.
We needed to know how to talk to the general public when they ask us questions.
When they ask why all of that undergrowth is gone, if the goal of the trees is screening, it seems counterintuitive. But it is what that was the original plan, was the installation of these trees.
Yep.
And then there would then be, those would have been done at least 2 years ago. And so we would have had 2 years of growth now, along with the trees. That hasn't happened. We're actually going to remove a pretty good amount of undergrowth. But it's being done for the benefit of the trees that were part of the improvement plan.
Yeah, I would need a better description of what he's talking about with the racetrack. There shouldn't be any bulldozing. You can bring an excavator in through stuff and flatten, and it's gonna flatten some non-mature trees, but, you know, I think anything that's more than 2 years old, which is something that was there before, should not be needed to be moved, because that wouldn't have been moved in the original plans. So I think that driving an excavator over growth that's less than 2 years old would be acceptable to get the trees planted, but it doesn't need to be bulldozed as a racetrack. I don't know what he's talking about, but that's not a definition we use in landscaping, so.
Okay, so this, these are both UNH grads in forestry. They have their master's degrees in agriculture and all that. He said, so I've been there, this is 6 years. We're in the 6th growth season right now. We've been through 5, we're going into 6. He said your general average is 18 to 26 inches per year of growth. They call it 2 feet. He said that's why you get 8 to 10 feet of growth, especially where the horse farm is. I mean, it's a forest back there. He goes, because you're gonna come in here, you're gonna clear cut 8 to 10 feet of growth, that whole perimeter, to plant a tree every 30 feet. Yeah. I said, what, I mean, I was ready, I only called because he said, you better check with the town before you do this. Otherwise, I mean, my contract's here, everything,
Okay, I think on that case, we're gonna have to get advice of one of the consulting foresters that we used to do up the original plan, because that doesn't sound like any planting operation. You clear cut when you're harvesting, and then you go in and plant. You don't need to clear cut just to plant specific trees on a few spots. You don't have to clear cut the entire area of growth, new growth.
Well, where you want the trees is now 400 yards of 8 to 10 foot growth.
Is that growth trees in its own right, or is it like?
Yeah, Mother Nature. That's what he described. He said, you're not gonna, he said, 220 trees is counter-effective against 5 years of Mother Nature. He goes, you're getting 2 feet per year, 18 to 26 inches, 2 feet per year. He goes, that's why you have 8 to 10 feet of growth in here.
I'm with you, but are we talking about Mother Nature like oaks? Are we talking bushes?
There's oaks, there's pines, there's hemlocks, there's
Gotcha.
everything.
Yeah, and.
It doesn't matter to me either way, I just want to,
Those are not necessarily successor species that you would have, that were requested on that plan. Obviously, hemlocks are not a species that would be designated to be planted. So if there's hemlocks in there, they're gonna die anyway.
I'm saying that's what's in there now,
Right.
natural growth.
But, and that's not a desirable, that's not what was requested in the plan. So there was a mixture of evergreens and hardwoods that were specified as to species.
Correct.
And what's growing up there now doesn't meet the plan. And if you specifically hemlocks and some other species that are suffering from diseases and are dying off, that's not going to help us at all to avoid planting trees to save a hemlock. So I would think if this has gone on, I think we need to go back to our original consultants and say, can this be planted in a way that won't destroy, you know, you're talking about mowing down the entire area just to plant.
He's talking about bringing an excavator in and make a track, like a track, just a road, wherever you want them. I mean, you need, so they can get in there. There were so many vines and it's unbelievable. But that's the way, I mean, I don't know, I take what they say, you know.
So I just want to be mindful of the longer it takes to get another consultant in there, and it's potentially another missed
the same
planting season, and we're right back in the cycle that we've been in for the last, 6 years now?
This is the 6th year here.
Yeah.
So that's why they're doing 10 feet of
You know,
growth.
it's been pushed down the road to try to make it look like it's going to grow up on its own, and all the people along have suffered that. And the bottom line is that, you know, dodging this is not a reason for us to exempt the plan that was put in there specifically to provide screening. And the species that are growing up there now aren't going to do that. They're not being managed for screening growth or anything else. And I think if we go back to the consultants that we had, we still have that account, and just say, can you designate a plant, tell us what can be done to plant these in a way that doesn't obliterate the screening, because it sounds to me like he's trying to tell you that he just wants to build a strip through there and take it back to where it was 6 years ago and then put the trees in. That would have been fine if it had been done 6 years ago, because it was all cut down. But quite frankly, you've got, I don't know if the stumps were pulled back then or not, but they can certainly get in there and plant trees without, an excavator or a skidder or anything else can go through a wooded area without doing any more damage than the 2 tracks that it needs to get to specific locations. So they need to flag the locations that the trees are going to go, specify what species as per the plan that was provided, and plant them, and not go destroying areas that are not areas that are in the way of digging a hole to put a plant in. So.
Well, right now, I can tell you, if you went down personally, you couldn't walk from one end to the other without hurting yourself through those trees.
That's not
Without
the trees.
what's that?
It's not necessarily trees. You're talking
100%
about
trees.
Greenbrier and brambles and things like that. That would be the only thing to keep you from walking through there. And if they're tight trees, it needs to be thinned anyway, because it won't grow into a screen. So I'm just saying that I think we should go back to the 2 consultants that gave us the plan.
The consultant we used was the county forester.
Well, there are 2 people that contributed to that plan. They agreed, and either one would be fine. They could tell us how you can plant trees without doing any more damage than is necessary. But we've been hearing these excuses all along.
These aren't excuses, and don't tell me I'm trying to dodge something. I take offense to that, my friend.
Yeah.
That I'll tell you.
Let's keep this.
Well, we've been hearing lots and lots of reasons. We won't say excuses, we'll say reasons why it didn't get done, deadline after deadline after deadline, and why we had to bring in people to come in with a plan. And I mean, you admitted yourself that you were responsible for getting this done.
I'll do it right now. Just don't tell me they clear cut too much to do it. This guy started laughing. He goes, which guy in town doesn't like you? Are you kidding me? Look at the growth you have here. And I don't know this guy for a hole in the wall.
Okay.
I would say we need to consult with the people who designed the plan and say, is it still feasible and can it be done without creating more damage?
Okay.
Do we want to take a look and then hear from the consultant?
Take a site walk?
Yeah.
Do a site walk with it.
And then the other part is maybe,
I don't. I mean, you drive by,
when I drive by, the front looks clear. Can we get planning started on that? And then, is the problem area out back where?
Is it just by the horse farm?
it's the length of the horse farm, which unfortunately they're fencing barns on my property, so.
I mean, maybe just get started on the front if it's clear, because I think that's where, I mean, I've heard complaints here about that.
There's actually none on the front,
None on the front?
except for, there's none on the direct front.
Okay.
No.
Because the mail lady was upset about the lights.
That was the light.
That's my information.
Yeah, there wasn't a plan to put anything in front of that building.
Yeah, there's nothing close to, what's supposed to be in the front is done.
Okay,
That was all done.
all right.
Okay, so
Around the buildings, we're all done. It's where the tree guy overcut.
Yeah.
yeah, looking toward the Fellows property and then across the tree line.
Fellows is to the 107.
Last house, yeah, 107, last house to the farm.
Exactly, that whole farm.
Okay.
Which, in one more month, you can't see that. Not even a month, a week. But I'll do it, I mean,
So people.
I only called out of,
Okay, so here we are with a decision, yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. We've got a decision to make. Do we go back to the original plan do we call a county forester? Or do we just, go to the original plan and have it finished and done, and then it'll take another few years for the undergrowth to grow? Or do we just let it sit as it is? I think those are our decisions.
My feeling is that we should definitely take a peek and then listen to a forester. I mean, I don't know about growth in trees, but it's been growing for 6 years, and Peter seems to have a little more knowledge about plants and trees and all that. And I'd like to catch up on speed, but if we go out there, it's there.
It appears to me that time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Would I be out of order to say, maybe we should adjourn the meeting for 15, 20 minutes, go take a look? You can drive pretty close to the horse farm, right? If we drove to the end of,
You gotta walk probably 100 yards out there,
okay, I don't have those shoes on.
100 yards through rough terrain. Unless you come in from the horse farm, if you don't come in that way.
Unfortunately, I wore out my yellow bean boots and the
And
whole
her sense
the
of
soles
adventure
fell
could
off,
be-
so.
could end up being a tumble with a broken arm, so let's don't do
Well,
that.
you just tell me to go ahead and, you just say, go ahead and do it, and
Okay,
I mean, quickly can we get we don't know, right? We'd have to ask how quickly they can get out there.
Correct.
and we know the time is of the essence to get the trees planted.
he told me on the greens, whatever that means, on the greens. The greens, if it gets warm, he says you can't plant them right now. All the hardwood or whatever is fine, the greens, you'd have to wait till fall, which I have. If you wanna plant it, I'll plant, I'm done, it doesn't matter to me. I don't wanna dodge it anymore.
Plant a ton of stuff and have it all done.
I would agree.
That would be a waste of money and all of everyone's.
I actually offered the whole lump sum of money to the town to do what they want with it, and nobody would respond to it at the time. I figured conservation, police, or someone could use it better than putting a 6-foot tree in a 10-foot path of trees,
They
but
wanted the trees.
that's fine.
Well,
I make a motion that we consult with either of the two consultants, whoever can get out there the fastest, and then reconvene with whatever their
one was
input is.
wetlands and one was forester? Wasn't one
Yeah, the county
vegetation?
foresters who we talked with
Yeah.
about the trees, there were the wetlands issues that maybe Mike Cuomo came out. I think it was Mike.
That was Mike, if I remember correctly.
But the county forester was our expert for the trees.
Well,
And at that point, he was a new person. It wasn't Phil Ozier anymore. It was a new person. I don't know who it is now.
so we have a motion on the floor to have the county forester come out and take a look. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Further
Could you give,
discussion?
oh, I'm sorry. Could you give me enough notice so I could have, this forest consultant go as well, so
Yep.
they're on the same page?
Oh,
'Cause I don't
absolutely.
want any, you know,
Excellent idea.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
I
absolutely.
just want it done and
Yep. Any further discussion? Any discussion?
Do we wanna look at it? I wanna look at it. I can go up by myself.
No, what, no? Do we want to have a sidewalk?
I'll be honest, I can go out and take a look, but I don't know what I'm looking at. So I would still defer to the experts on what the best plan is to address the planting. So I'm happy to go look at trees, but I'm not gonna have any valuable input from that.
So I know I was supposed to have it done by April 30th, so just keep in mind, if it's acceptable to you people, we'll do all the hardwoods if that's what they come up with, but the evergreens might have to,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So-
that,
Yeah,
that type of
I assume
thing,
that's what it's.
The April 30th is a deadline date so that we got forward motion. It appears we're doing forward motion, so let's see what can be accomplished by having the forester go out and talk with your consultant and see how this can get completed.
Ben, did you have something to say?
Yeah, so I'm kind of confused about the April 30th deadline. I mean, we're only 7 days into May. So is this forester telling you you can't plant the greens?
He said you can, I talked to Glenn on after your last meeting there, that next day, and he said, just keep in mind, if it gets real warm, you can't plant greens. Once it gets real warm, you'll miss the season. I said, well, I'm going this date here. He said, well, should be okay. He said, but if it gets warm, you can't do it.
So I guess my point of view is, just do it, because we're wasting time. In 2 years from now, it'll be all done. Whether you plant now or you plant in fall, right? Everything's done.
Whatever,
So then, to me, that's the approach that I would take, just do it.
Sounds like it's gonna be cold for the next week.
so you're okay with them going into an excavator then? I don't want,
And let's talk about the excavator for a second. So a mini excavator is not more than 6 feet wide.
8, yeah.
Well, I mean, a mini one, a John Deere 50G is no more than 6 feet wide. So I don't see that being a racetrack.
I mean, are they planning to like forestry mulch, are they actually scarifying the earth? Are they just cutting down the growth plant in between it, or?
Yeah, it's cutting down the growth, planting in between it, putting some soil in there, and he said, you'll know they'll all have bark mulch around them.
Do we have a bond? Did we ever charge Mr. President a bond for the work that wasn't done 6 years ago?
I thought there was.
I believe there was
Is there any
outstanding.
money left in the bond?
You've been holding roughly close to 75,000 cash of mine. There's no bond, I gave you cash.
Well, okay.
So it's an across, and that
So
was,
the answer is yes, that we have your money.
Correct.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that was supposed to be the carrot.
Well,
That made
that
Ellie
obviously
smile.
wasn't big enough.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to have the county forester go out. We have other opinions as well, as far as just doing it, biting the bullet and doing it, and getting it done, and then we have people that want to see it before we decide how to move forward. So
I
people,
think the reason we want somebody to go out and take a look is to designate exactly what the planting plan will be that won't involve gross destruction, which sounds like a way of saying that I don't believe we should be doing this. So I'm just going to say that, everything we do is been approved by the planning board because we were warned that you're going to go in and build a racetrack. So I think that there needs to be some advice from the county forester or whoever on how the planning should be done to avoid further damage.
okay,
And I can't speak for his timeliness, but the last time I did speak with him, he got out there very quickly. So if he is able to respond quickly, is there a reason why the planning board members couldn't go the same time that he met with Joe's consultant?
no?
Well, that's what we did last time, right?
Yes, that
Yes.
is what we did last time,
And if we have a
6
quorum,
years ago.
yeah, that would be good.
And all we'd have to do is post 24 hours in advance that the board was gonna be out on the site. Because I'm thinking, barring we're picking his vacation week in the spring, that he will go out really pretty quickly.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table.
And
We
second,
have a second.
that we do what we just said.
Any further discussion before we vote on the motion?
The only concern I have is we're prolonging it even further, and like you said, the green's gonna be, there's gonna be a point in time where you can't plant the green, so then we're outside of the whole screen itself. So if he does it tomorrow, we're ahead of the game, and it's already planned. We already
Right, but
know
we're
where
six-
the plants
6 years
are.
behind on this, and if we go 6 months to get the evergreens in, this would be a separate part of what the recommendation would be for planting, how to plant without losing, without losing all your money in wasting planting. So he'll come in and say, yeah, you should put these species that we designated in now, and put these other species in at the designated sites in October, or whatever. That's the type of recommendation we'd like to see. Minimal damage, maximum effect for your dollar.
But my question would be, if they plant the hardwoods now and destroy the underbrush with the track, and then they go out to plant the softwoods in the fall, are they going to redestroy everything that was in place? So,
We need to move on and
Yeah, I think that, these are questions that we can't answer.
Okay?
Yeah, we can't answer, we need a professional, and
All right.
No. So we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion before we vote? So, all those in favor of contacting the county forester?
aye.
Wait a minute. Contacting the county forester, having him come out, informing everyone as to when it will be, so that we can do a site visit simultaneously. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
And that is your second?
Yes, my second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that would be unanimous. Thank you, Joe.
When do you generally meet
Our next meeting is the 21st.
as far as like, in recent, like, practice, as far as like with your tree guy or?
We generally meet on Saturday or
Okay.
Sunday early morning. We're not going to meet this Sunday early morning because it's Mother's Day.
And I won't be around.
But a Saturday early morning is common, if the forester can do that. If not, we're going to have to adjust to the forester's schedule.
And I'll call him tomorrow from Brentwood without saying the word Kingston.
Caveat, are we gonna need a quorum for that, or can it just be a ad hoc,
No.
whoever shows up, who's, okay.
Sidewalks.
Yeah. Like a copy of the plans? We'll get you the plans. She'll put them online for you. Yeah.
The plans with the,
Robin will email them all to you, correct, Robin? Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Take care,
Let's
thank
get
you.
this taken care of.
Till the second phase. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the April 2nd, 2024 meeting, meeting minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the April 2nd, 2024 meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? You're... Oh, okay. You didn't have to vote. Yeah. Yep.
Are you gonna vote? Okay.
Yep. Okay, correspondence. We have notification from the East Kingston Planning Board. You're hereby notified the East Kingston Planning Board will hold a public hearing on the following application on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. at the Pound School, 41 Depot Road, East Kingston, New Hampshire. James O'Neill, 3-lot subdivision proposal, case number 2024-05. The applicant proposes to subdivide a 20.72 acre parcel situated in the residential agricultural district and located at 2 Deer Run, MBL number 060104, into 3 lots, resulting in lots measuring 2.96, 5.83, and 11.9 acres respectively. The property is owned by the Duchesne's Living Trust, care of Don Lesage. Members of the public are welcome to attend. The application is available for public inspection during normal business hours at the East Kingston Town Hall, East Kingston Town offices located at 24 Depot Road, East Kingston, New Hampshire, 03827. The proposed plan is posted on the online public hearing notice posting and can be viewed at www.eknh.org/planning board by Josh Bath, Chair, Tim Allen, Vice Chair, East Kingston Planning Board. And on the opposite page, you will see the subdivision plan. It is mostly in East Kingston. The road is in East Kingston, and the remainder of the lot is in Kingston, behind a property that they sold last year. So they subdivided the property to sell the front lot. And then they're subdividing the back lot, which is partially in Kingston. Okay.
Question I have, is this the same property, or one of the properties that they came in a couple of years ago for a subdivision lot line? We just drew it right down the property, the town line?
Yes,
And, yeah,
but we're now in a butter.
so we're now in a butter, but my understanding was now that is entirely, the one they're discussing is entirely in East Kingston, not in Kingston, right? Because with that, the property, there was a house on that property.
There's a portion of this subject property that is in East Kingston.
Is in East Kingston and in
I mean,
Kingston.
is
In
in
Kingston.
Kingston, right?
Yes,
Okay, that part,
But it's a small part.
it's a very small part.
I thought we subdivided, I mean, I thought we separated Kingston from East Kingston on that.
I did too, but I guess we will.
But at least the abutter, the person who did the subdivision, not the Kingston resident, they have a house there, and they will receive the abutter notification separately.
Correct.
The way we did for the.
Although when we look at the boundary line, it appears that it is Kingston on one side and East Kingston on the other of
Yeah.
proposed lot 3.
Yeah, when I looked at it, did a cursory look at it, I didn't see anything in Kingston. We were just being notified as an abutter, because I believe that if it was in Kingston, they would have to come here.
Correct.
Or we have to have a joint hearing, which is what we did when we subdivided that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
We did a joint hearing with.
If they were changing the Kingston property lines.
No, if they were
If
changing-
they're not changing the Kingston property lines, they wouldn't have to do anything in Kingston. If they
No, I'm saying,
changed,
if the property, if the part of the subdivided property was in Kingston, that would be, they'd have to have, we'd have to see the plans. Same thing that happened on Hunt Road when they put the development in Hampstead, and they put the well in Kingston. That was supposed to come.
if no property boundaries change in the town of Kingston as a result of this subdivision,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
then then they're just showing us because it's owned by the same people. If they change the property lines in any way
Oh, I see, so
of
that's.
land in Kingston, then they
The
would
part,
have to.
Right.
so if the subdivision line went over the Kingston town line, and there was parts of 2 of the lots were in Kingston.
Correct.
It was originally 1 lot, I get what you're saying, yeah.
So if that's the case, then they have to do a subdivision both in Kingston and in East Kingston.
Right.
But I don't believe that's what this is accomplishing.
No, I don't think
So
so,
in
I
this
don't
case,
think there's any Kingston.
None of it's in
Just
Kingston.
notification.
It's just a notification.
It's just a notification, it's
So-
Because they're not changing
Yep.
property boundary lines in Kingston.
Okay, next piece of.
Can I
business-
just-
Yep,
Just for a second. Hi, folks. Hello. Do you know why they're here?
no. Why are you?
We had dropped off a letter about changing use of the building over at 9 Boston Road. So I was just here to see if it was gonna come up.
9 New Boston?
Oh,
Yeah, here's. Would you come up here and just, so that it gets picked up by a microphone?
Oh, that's,
no, that's another one that did not make it to tonight, so I apologize.
Okay, yeah, so just to let you know, so I'm Mike Edwards, I live at 80 Main Street in Kingston, and I recently purchased 9 New Boston Road, and it was the ugly brown house right across from
Yes,
Bump and
on
Grind.
the corner of New Boston Road and,
Soon not to be as ugly.
so are you
And
on the west side or the east side of 125?
east side.
East side, okay.
Yep, and so I had met with Robin and had just dropped off a letter. It sounds like it didn't make it for this evening, so. That's why we're here.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right, so we'll,
We'll address it at the next meeting?
okay. Is there any way to,
I'd
I
like to take a better look at it and,
was gonna say, is there any way to discuss simple things in between meetings? Or,
does it,
What are you proposed to do with the building?
there is a building there, it's a steel garage. It was, there's a site plan that was approved back in 1997 when Phil Whitby owned the property and worked through the site plan. The building was a proposed storage building. I have with me Paul Balukas, who is he lives at 7 Shirley Lane. 4 Shirley Lane here in Kingston. And we were just seeing if we could use that building for a snow bike assembly facility and a snowmobile repair facility. and we're in commercial 3. It's allowable, and, yeah, so we were just looking to see if it was something we could do.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like a simple site plan.
Okay. Did the letter include number of employees, hours, and all of that stuff?
Yep.
Everything that's normally required?
Well, we didn't do hours, but it's 3 employees, 8:30 to 5.
Sorry.
Well, we don't have it. It
Okay.
didn't come in soon enough for tonight's meeting. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Look forward to it.
all right, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I just didn't.
No, no.
No, it's good, you did.
I'm glad you did.
There's no reason. It was interesting.
You might have been here all night.
As a group, we will still be here for a while, so you did not want to see that.
Okay. I just asked Robin who they were, yeah.
No, good.
Okay, we got a letter from Susan Ayer. Good morning. Please see the attached property card. The board is considering selling this property, that the board being the select board is considering selling this property. They had an inquiry on it which triggered research and the decision to start the process, which will include notifying the heirs of the prior owners. In the meantime, it is part of our policy to notify the planning and conservation first to find out if you know of any impediments to the sale or reason we should hold on to it. Please get back to me once you've had time to bring this to your board's consideration.
It's falling apart.
I drove by.
Yeah, it's a mess, and the laws are not what they used to be. It used to be you could pay someone's taxes for 3 years in a row, and then you would own the property, but those days are long gone. And now, if we were to sell it, we have to find the heirs, or any heirs, if there any exist, and give them the difference in the proceeds from what is owed to the town for taxes and interest and penalties, and the rest of the proceeds would go to the heirs. So before we even start that, we need to make sure there aren't any other issues that need to be addressed before we move forward.
So this property has just been abandoned
Correct,
and it's back taxed.
correct. Not saying that we haven't had some visitors to live in the house that shouldn't. Yeah,
So it sits on an acre, and it's falling apart.
Yeah, I know you guys were talking about the control burn, but it sounds to me like, again, you got to find the heirs and get all that, give them an opportunity to buy it back.
But unfortunately, there's a lot of,
It may end up that we have no way of knowing until we try to find the heirs.
Yeah, that's what I
want
said.
to do.
Yeah.
So, the value is diminishing, it's in the land more than the house.
Yeah.
yep, values in the lot.
Yeah, an acre of land in Kingston is
125.
worth a lot of money.
It's an approved.
On New Boston, on Newton Junction Road. It's halfway down Newton Junction Road. That's okay.
51 to exit.
Same kind of problem. 51. There's two.
We haven't had, that one hasn't come up yet.
All right.
They're anxious. They're anxious for this one because they have somebody that wants to buy it.
That's the one directly across the street?
2 houses down,
Same side.
same side. Can't see it because of the trees, but it's there.
I didn't know of anything from the planning board side that
No,
be of worth to tell the board of selectmen.
all I can say is good luck finding the heirs.
No, and from the,
The
and
Sands property next to yours, oh, we still have a $1,000.
from the tax map, it looks like it's a high drive, 1 acre lot that the town would have no use for.
No, we just want the money for the tax. Less headaches.
Okay, so we don't need to take a vote on this. Everybody have consensus to tell the Board of Selectmen to move forward?
Susan,
Okay.
have no vested interest.
Okay. Then we have our email from Evie Nathan of the Conservation Commission. And what she is bringing forward are a number of different properties that they had questions about. The first one is 111 Route 125, which is the old Rockingham Board of Realtors building, which was sold to Ralph Dumpke's
Yeah, Waterline.
Waterline Industries, and then was sold to ECSI. It's been on and off the market, and we've had a lot of issues with this property having to do with runoff and people in non-compliance to the site plan, and possible contamination that will end up in Country Pond. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Okay.
And my memory serves that there is no active site plan anymore, because they were coming in, and he kept coming in, and he moved to Colorado or whatever, and they never pursued it, and they never finished the work on stabilizing it to the slope. So I see from Dennis's comments that it looks okay then from stuff that's grown naturally, but it's the site plan has never actually been approved.
That is correct. From the planning board standpoint, there is no approved site plan there. So there shouldn't be any use there.
But we
But there
remember
is.
that some guy
apparently there
from East
is.
Kingston was storing his trucks there, and there's been a lot of
Well, yeah, so
more action, yeah.
what Evie said that, of course, in 2016, they had an issue where there were more than, and Dennis Quintel and Evie were there more than once to speak to the owner about the equipment and materials that could be causing hazardous runoff from their location, and about possible storage of hazardous waste. ECSI refused to comply with the previously approved stormwater plan and subsequently closed up shop and moved away. Although the property is listed for sale, someone is storing large equipment there. Has the planning board received a notice about this business? We have not seen any plans. Have they filed a permit or runoff plan with the town? Whoever is utilizing the property should be held to the same standards as ECSI had been. You will see the proximity to the wetland and the pond on this satellite map. There was a steep slope directly behind the business lot.
So the property is still currently for sale, but being used by some interim company to store X, Y, and Z.
That's my understanding.
Is it still for sale? Is the sign out front? I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry. The last time I looked, it was still for sale. I don't know if it's still for sale.
I mean, is it worth just asking that the owner of record come in and talk about what's going on there?
I think it's worth the town saying to whoever the owner is, there is no right to store anything there.
Move your stuff.
Because we should make that clear. There is no
There's no
approved
food
site.
plan,
So
can be no
they
commercial
could,
use of the property.
they could conceivably use it as a house? No, they can't, it's in the commercial zone. And they forewent the use of it as a residential for 7 years when it was ESCI. So they can't do anything there without getting a site plan.
Because there's functionally no approved use on that
Because there
site.
is no approved commercial use on the site.
I wonder if that's what's been inhibiting the sale, because it's been for sale for quite a while.
Yes.
I think the toxicity of the site may be prohibiting the sale more than anything else. But it's convenient for them to store product there or equipment, but I'm assuming they must be paying taxes.
The listing has expired. Wait a minute, that one is expired. It closed. On September 17th, 2021, for $750,000.
It closed, so it's sold?
That's 3 years ago, though. There's been a sign out front ever since.
There has been, there have been.
Yeah, but it's not, I'm just checking MLS.
Oh, so that's the last sale.
That's the, well, not all commercial properties end up in MLS. Sometimes they're on other websites and other places. It appeared to me that perhaps they had a Massachusetts agent the last time, and that it may just be in some national commercial sites and nothing local. So I do believe it's probably still on the market, but it did sell 3 years ago.
Was it not?
Or 2.5 years ago.
It wasn't in any CPE.
I didn't check any CPE.
It's neither here.
But I don't remember
But
it
I
being
guess
in
the
any
question
CPE.
is, as far as the town's concerned, is the person
owner paying taxes.
Right.
And if it got sold.
If
then-
they are
As
paying
they know they
taxes,
are.
they should
Somebody's
be
paying
told they
taxes.
can't store anything there.
Right, and whoever the current owner is, needs to receive a letter saying that there's been activity on his property, his or her property.
Yeah.
And it needs to cease and desist because there's no site plan on it.
But this is formally a code enforcement issue.
Yes.
Not a planning board.
Oh, yeah. I just
Now, I'm just,
recommended.
it's not unusual for the Board of Selectmen, when faced with this kind of an issue, they would ask the planning board to weigh in on it. So I would recommend that the weighing in on it in this discussion is
No
there's
site plan.
no approved site plan on the property. They can't do anything there without getting a site plan.
Some of
And then send out paper.
That's why we have a BOS rep. She's writing that fast.
Well, we also talked to the building inspector and have him go out and look at the property, see what's going on there. Yeah. Because we are being told there's activity, but
Well, the position
Is
of
it
the
tax
trucks
paid? Is
and
it-
equipment changes quite frequently. The number and positions change. But as I drive by, I can't say I've actually ever seen
driving
activity.
by, yeah, exactly, that's my
Exactly.
point. I
But-
don't see any activity there, but I don't stop and look.
But unless
either.
these are trucks that move themselves, even then, that would be activity.
Yeah, and there's no, even storing commercial vehicles there is not a permitted use. Right. Because they forewent their site plan approval when they stepped away. Well, I mean, they sued us first and they lost in court. Right. And the judge said, comply with site plan, and they said, see you later.
That's gonna be a headache,
It's going to be a headache.
yeah.
Unless we start assessing them a fine that exceeds what they're making by having somebody pay them to let them store stuff there.
Yeah.
If it isn't owned by the owner. And I bet it's not owned by the owner. I mean, 1 time out of 10, an owner stores his own stuff there. The other 9 times, they found somebody that will pay them to store stuff there.
That specific property is also like the perfect storm of hiding from 125, because everything that happens there is below grade.
Yeah,
But,
you
yeah,
can't, you
behind
can't
the
see.
buildings.
Yep.
Nothing came up in CPE either.
Last time I saw it listed, it was close to $1 million.
It was what?
It was close to $1 million, it was in the 9s.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think it's an enforcement issue. So we can refer that one to the selectmen for enforcement.
So that's, by consensus, that's what we're doing is, as Glenn said,
Sending it down the road.
sending it back to the selectmen with,
Because Evie sent this to the building inspector as well.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
She sent all this information both to the planning board and to the building inspector.
Yeah, and Pedro will follow up, he's very good.
And to BOS, yeah.
Okay.
There was one more item
Oh, there was?
noted in that, specific to the corner of New Boston,
Oh, yes, I'm
or
sorry.
19 lot 17.
Where was that?
Yeah, that's the one that we noticed is got cleared, had a fire, they did a whole bunch of clearing, and then they
That's the one
put it
across
all
from
in,
Bump
and
and
they had a
Grind.
fire that lasted for about
Yes.
4 or 5 days.
It's one across from Bump and Grind. They cleared it
Yeah.
as soon, they bought it and
They're
cleared it.
storing stuff there now,
Yep, they bought it and cleared it.
yeah. So presumably they got a cut permit. Notice.
That's a presumption. I think it is. That's what I was just thinking.
I thought that was a separate parcel.
I think that's a different
So
parcel.
he's talking about the place across the street, big steel building with the sled racing team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is.
He's
the
talking,
brown house
he's
on the
actually
east
talking
side
on
of
the other side of
125.
125. He got his east and west mixed up.
Oh, okay. Where the power
I'm
lines
sorry,
are.
west side of 125 is the brown house, yeah. He used to, I put a little sign. He used to collect antiques and
It was like a
trading place.
well, it is sort of a trailer that burned.
And now the stuff's like
It collapsed and burned.
hemorrhaging out of it? Yes.
We were there a couple days putting fire out.
Is that right? Yeah.
And it,
But there was a third, in addition to that, there was another place that is where, near where the
But that one
campgrounds,
did-
north of the campgrounds, there's a little house next to the campgrounds, a little blue one, cute one. And then there's apartment buildings, on the east side. And then just north of that, they cleared around next to the apartment buildings and down below. And that's the one she's showing in this picture. And she's asking what's going on there, and, you know, it's clear cutting and grading next to, the wetlands and cedar swamp.
so where they clear cut on lot 17, which is right on the other side of,
This is one that's immediately south of where ECSI was. And a steep slope just above Country Pond, it shows is roughly cleared. But, this is the one she went out to Chief Briggs, and he was just clearing a few trees, and then they've been cutting for about 5 or 6 plus years.
which one is that?
It's, you can see it in page 2 of the letter. There's the campground. Then there's,
Oh, okay,
and then
gotcha.
north of that, before you get up to the ECSI, there's a building there, and it's right north of the apartments, the wooden
It's
apartment
part of the apartment
complex, I believe, yeah. 'Cause it's-
yeah, I think that's Ray Durbin's. And I think he was storing some of his, construction equipment, his business equipment there.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a fair amount of cutting down over the slope, and I think that's what she was concerned about.
Well, I guess that's something that,
It would be the type of thing that obviously, Pedro would have to go out.
Well, as long as you send this to Pedro, then it's all set. We don't
Yeah.
have to do anything further then.
Yeah.
and then on the New Boston Road, that was,
That's in here too. I'm assuming she
Lot
sent
of-
the whole thing to him.
the town tax map does not show the wetlands
Yeah, she has.
sufficiently on that. So, okay, so all of those are in Pedro's hands. And then we have an invoice from Civil Construction. I don't think I have that, Robin, in my
Yeah, I
file.
have it right there.
And that was for Granite Fields?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
$237.60. Any objection to us paying him?
No.
Okay. That would be our town engineer, Dennis Quintal. There you go.
I just want to add this. Housing support, we need to get them back to escrow.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to come up with a process where you sign off and I can give it to Paula. Right now, there really isn't that accept a motion. So for now, I'm thinking if we sign that, I can give her a copy and she has it for a file. I'll come up with a better form.
So this is the professional review costs agreement, and it was for,
Well, no, this is the escrow release. All I'm saying is right now, there's no formal form to sign off, the planning board to sign off. It's just a motion we usually do.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we should come up with a form. So for now, I was just thinking, you sign that, I can give it to Paula, that it's okay to release it.
any objection to us returning? I guess we need a motion to return the money to housing support.
So moved.
Is it,
They're all done.
they're all done, and we don't have anything outstanding for them, right?
Which property is this?
That's the one on the left-hand side
On Main Street?
on Main Street where they were putting the,
What did they
Next
end
to
up with
Bob and
there?
Jenny Gorse.
ended up with two, with keeping the duplex
Yeah,
and housing people in it, each side.
3 people in each of the units.
And allowing them not to be family.
Right.
okay.
That's one of those ordinances I think we dealt with
this past year.
Yeah, we did. We dealt with a lot of them.
I know we did.
And we can talk about that in a
18
little
pages
bit
of
too.
them.
Okay,
Because we're not going down that same road.
we are not, but we may not have a choice. With
We're
the
not gonna
changes
do
being made in
10
Concord.
pages worth of
Oh, no,
ordinances.
no, we're not, but we also have a lot changing in Concord.
Yeah, the
They ma-
ADUs and stuff like that. we'll
Concord
have to-
used Kingston as an example of what not to do with the volume of zoning ordinance changes we had in a workshop that was held this past month.
Yeah.
We were the poster boy of what not to do. So we're
There
not
was
gonna
a
do
lot.
that again.
Well, there's a lot of discussion on
And
plan
I
Month
read them
about
all
that.
for
and
freedom.
You just can't keep taking it down the road.
Except they saved you with this.
I mean,
Just telling you
Hope to
my
never do that
opinion.
again.
yeah.
I would agree with your opinion, however, and I don't think we're gonna have that many, however, what's going on in Concord right now is there's so many changes to housing, we may not have a choice to make,
Then I'm gonna have you all come and work the polls and count those freaking ballots. Just saying.
Did you need to do a motion on that, or just say it's okay to pay?
oh yeah, do we have a motion?
I moved it,
Second?
But no second.
and then we didn't vote.
Okay, all those in favor? And we return their money? Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna try to limit it, but we are finding some issues that are
May
coming,
be able to come up with a form, Paula.
yeah. We're coming up with a few issues that have already hit. I was at Concord today, and they're completely changing, the shoreline protection process, and it passed committee today, going to the Senate. It was completely out of the House, and there was nobody testifying against it. So there may be some changes to shoreline protection having to do with site assessments and septic systems and stuff, which aren't going to affect this so much, but there's some other things going on there that definitely will, that have, the first one we saw that is ready for the governor's signature is relative to municipal land use regulation for manufactured housing and subdivisions, and I gave it to Glenn, and we don't need to do anything with that because we already meet it.
Correct.
But that's
gonna
the
say,
first
didn't we
of
just
several,
update
and I
those?
just saw that coming, so I asked Glenn to please take a look, just to make sure that our ordinances were in alignment with what has been passed. But they're so into housing, and they set up a whole special committee on housing. They've never had a housing committee in the House of Representatives before, and they established one because of the housing crisis. And that's why all these bills having to do with housing are coming forward, and many of them have legs. So we may end up with maybe 6 or 7 just having to do with that we may have no control over, unfortunately.
6 or 7 will fit on one page.
Right.
Well.
I agree with you, what we did.
Unless you have to rewrite significant portions, like, what's the 2 ADUs per lot thing, is that gonna happen? Or do you think that's,
That one's still very much in discussion, but.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that would require a very small change to our ADU ordinance, but, you know.
I've heard that it won't make it out of the Senate, but.
I don't think it will make it out of the Senate.
Because it's taking away
However,
local control, that's what they
I
say.
believe some of that is only on public water and sewer,
Oh, yeah, some of that is.
so we don't have that. So we probably wouldn't have to change those things. But there are other things going on. But we did notice a couple of things. One of the things we noticed was sometimes we don't notice something in our ordinances until somebody comes forward with a plan, and then all of a sudden we say, oh, why does that say that? Why was it written that way? Should it be that way? Should it not be that way? And one of those things was for the plan that came forward. What was the name of that, Glenn? On the duplexes versus triplexes?
Liberty Commons?
Liberty Commons, which came forward with a site plan review to put the 200...
Design review.
Design review, to put the 255 bedrooms on the north side of Route 107 going toward East Kingston. And their plan looked really nice. It looked like a nice little country village kind of thing, and it had duplexes. Unfortunately, our zoning ordinance says you can't have duplexes are not considered multifamily housing. So one of the things we talked about was if it's a condo or a multifamily, detached multifamily condos, could we have something in our zoning ordinance to make those ability to have duplexes. So if they're doing a big plan up there and they want to do duplexes instead of triplexes to make it look more country, because it's one big condo project, would duplexes be okay if we changed our wording to allow duplexes? And Glenn did write, amend section 19, definitions, multifamily dwellings to read as follows. In developing multifamily housing in the C1 zoning district, units for multifamily development can include 2 or more dwelling units, which is...
Now what you just said would perhaps mean we should restrict this further and say only in those developments proposed in the C1 zoning district as condominium ownership?
Maybe.
Because then you get into legal problems.
Duplexes could be rentals.
Right.
And that might not be an expansion we want to entertain.
Correct.
But then you get into the state law that requires no distinction be made about ownership. You can't pass any laws that differentiate between types of ownership. And, condos, I mean, even in the larger units, people all say, oh, well, there'd be condos, so they wouldn't be rented.
You can't prohibit different forms of ownership.
Right, or you can't differentiate. You can't make laws that discriminate between forms of ownership. And you'd have to look it up. Because,
I think you're referring to what we looked at last year, which was, or the year before, where the state said that if you have a certain type of housing, like for example, if you have special density for over 55, that density also has to apply to workforce housing.
Oh, that's completely different. Yeah,
okay.
that's not the type of ownership.
That's not what Peter's saying.
Yeah, I'm talking about condominiums can't be, you can't basically discriminate against condominiums as ownership types. The other thing to remember is that, even if you build a 20-unit apartment building that are condos, the same person can own all 20 units and rent them out. There's no prohibition. Condominium doesn't mean they're not going to be rented.
Unless it's in the condominium documents. So Lantern Lane was concerned about that.
Condominium documents can certainly say that there can be no subleasing.
Yeah. Yeah, they can say no subleasing.
They absolutely
and
can.
At Lantern Lane, they said that no one person could own, there's 56 units over there, no one entity could own more than 3 units, because they were afraid of that, which was happening across the country, not in New England so much, because in New England, things are really sold individually. You're not having big corporations coming in and buying up a whole building full of apartments or condos.
Are we concerned about individuals renting those units?
Yeah, I don't know what the rationale is, but there certainly was a lot of talk about them being rental apartments, and for some reason people think that people who rent are somehow less than people who own. Yeah. The property is still going to get taxed at the same rate.
Absolutely.
It's still going to be the same people. I mean, different, families or whatever, couples moving into these places, and I don't get that, but that was just
the big families they used to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
2-bedroom. It's no reason that children couldn't live there.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and especially in light of today's housing crisis, the fact that 250 bedrooms would be able to be rented, then opens it up to a huge more amount of people to actually move into those places versus buying.
I mean, they're not going to be, that wasn't proposed as being anything affordable. So if they're rented, they're probably,
$2K a month, $2,500 a month, so that's the going.
that is the going rate. In fact, that's the going rate for Section 8.
No longer Section 8.
As far as
They don't put your name down.
I know. But anyway, how do we feel about, in developing multifamily housing in the C3 zoning district, units from multifamily developments can include 2 or more dwellings, 2 or more unit.
We presently say 3 or more.
Yep.
The state for
for
workforce
fire,
housing uses 5 or more, but
Yeah.
Our workforce housing ordinance doesn't really require that you make any workforce housing.
Right, it caps it at 50%.
It provides that you can, but it doesn't say that you have to.
So then,
Yeah, that's
why are we
kind of
doing
weird.
it?
That's kind of weird.
Not only is it strange, but it says you can't build more than 50% of them as.
Right, it does,
workforce
it
housing.
puts that limitation. Well, that's not as weird. That's done by lots of communities to limit the amount of work, the amount of workforce as opposed to just market rate. That's done fairly frequently. But to have a workforce housing ordinance that doesn't specifically require that you make any of the units workforce is a little bit more unusual. And it was definitely, I can't say that on tape. It was.
Well, it says
It was
in the
done
ordinance.
It was done strategically, yes.
Yeah, it says in the ordinance, this ordinance exists to comply with the state requirement that we have workforce housing. So it's not a.
No.
Let's
go
move
back.
on, please.
Let's go back to the 2 versus 3 unit. Do we
Well, what if
have,
we do keep it at 3? Why is it?
the way they presented it was it looked more like a
Village.
village.
And let's be honest about this. They simply misread our ordinance because their desire was to do duplexes, because our requirement of triplexes isn't as financially interesting, because a duplex has a saleability that's different than having to sell a third unit that's met on both sides by common walls. Whereas a duplex has just one common wall, somebody in a triplex has 2 common walls. And those units aren't as interesting from a development standpoint as a duplex. And they simply didn't read our ordinance properly, because when I pointed it out at the design review, they went to fight me on it, and then they said, oh my, we just misread that. Well, that's fine. And I understand that economic aspect of a triplex. And so it's a legitimate question for the town to consider for their ordinance. I personally think maybe there's more diversity being enabled by having a unit that has to be sold for less. Because there's, in Kingston, there's always gonna be someone who will buy that interior unit. But it is not, from a planning out what you're gonna make on the project, those middle units aren't as saleable.
But they're not that much more unsaleable.
I can't
Especially
imagine
now.
in this market, how can they?
In this market,
People
they're
want
selling for
anything.
almost the same.
People want anything. People are buying half a duplex for $500,000 in Kensington.
So why make that change then? Because it protects us
To
to some degree.
For
to
the
say,
purpose of
listen,
discussing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why we raised it.
right, okay. Because, I mean, if we can slow down the progression of more and more housing and more people coming into the town, that, you know, those projects are gonna sell anyways. They're gonna sell out. There's no question about that.
This design review was the best design review I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In the 35 years I've been in Kingston, it was the
beautiful.
most well thought out, internally discussed and worked on design review I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it is clear they walked away when they couldn't do duplexes.
And it had a village green in the middle.
Yeah.
And it had the duplexes around on both sides of the green.
And it had a large multi-family apartment building as well.
It had those as well.
But the duplexes, there were several plans that came in around the same time, but the homes still resembled single-family dwellings, even though they were duplexes. And I suspect if you then had to widen them to make it a triplex, it would change that aesthetic. So they looked like colonial homes around a green.
It did. And then even the larger apartment buildings at the end with 12 units per building, 18 units per building, looked like Shaker Village
Yep.
buildings. So it was something that was thought out to kind of mesh with the way in which our downtown area is here.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the best point they made was that even in spite of the fact that it's in the C1 district, it was on the northern end of the C1 district, and it made a good transition between the commercial and the single-family residential that was to the north and to the east of that property. And so you go from single families to duplexes and large old colonial type of buildings, and then you move down the road and you get to commercial buildings. So I thought they were heading back to the drawing board to try to make that work, because
That's what I thought, but I've been told differently. Not by the development team though, but it has been crickets I have not heard one word from the development team.
So is that a tactic, or they're just walking away because it's a tactic? I mean, just because
No,
they
it's
want to
not a
have two?
They don't know that we're talking about
Okay,
this.
so,
Right, they don't know, they have no idea we're even considering this.
Yeah.
But they did step away from the ZBA, right?
Yeah, we withdrew the application for the duplex, triplex thing. And unfortunately, I don't think they've read the state requirements for, to get a variance, because even though the attorney president asked them, are you ready to go? And they said, yeah, we're ready to go. They couldn't produce an argument, valid argument, couldn't legally pass it. So that was just for height, and we told them, it seems.
They wanted to have some
It looked nice.
bell towers.
Yeah, the bell tower wasn't an issue, because that's not occupied. And I think that was something we might look into, is because the rest of the district is 45 feet, and this is 35 feet or 30 feet for the residential things. As long as we say there's no residences above a certain height, I don't think that they could put a flat top on the building and get away with it. It just would look horrible. So we were hoping that we'd just go back and redesign it.
Is this potentially gonna be problematic for the, I guess it was called the science building or whatever, the proposal for that as well, because wasn't the roof height on that from the back higher as well?
Yep.
Yeah, there's.
At the seminary?
Yeah.
The
building
not the seminary
behind the
building,
seminary.
but the apartment building. Yeah.
Yeah, science building, because the seminary building is
What it is.
It is what it is. You're not gonna cut off
No
the
one's
top floor of that.
No one's proposing to put more on it or take more off it.
Thank you.
But before we get into roof height, we're still with duplex, triplex kind of things for that type of aesthetic. I mean,
So are we
that's-
just deciding if we want to put this on the list of things to talk about, or are we making a decision tonight?
I think we need to talk about it tonight and maybe have one more meeting, and if we want to move forward with it, have it ready to go. And then we don't have to worry about it in November. We're not hit with, 5, 6, 7, 8 things to do in November.
Then to your point about 3 versus 2 on the impact of the town, 2 actually reduces the impact of the town based on the number of people who intend to develop.
Well,
So-
you make fewer triplexes, probably end up with the same number of units, because
Right.
that's based on
Yeah.
carrying capacity of the soil
Right.
and density requirements that we have. So you'd have the same number of units total, you just would have fewer buildings.
Yeah, they were talking 255 bedrooms.
Yeah, and our ordinance is predicated on bedrooms, so they take that established bedroom number and spread it out over the modes of housing that they want.
They had done this in a different town. I was hoping to find out where I was going to actually go visit it, see what it looked like. But
Can we ask them to come back?
no, this was different.
That might not be appropriate.
These weren't the same
You don't
people as,
say.
Glenn, these people doing that project were not the same people that were doing anything in Brentwood, are they?
No, I
No.
have never met this design team before.
But they said they had done something in Bedford?
They said they had done something somewhere, my recollection was that it was in Massachusetts.
Oh, could be.
And I thought I told them, don't ever say that out loud in a planning board meeting in New Hampshire.
But they were talking sidewalks, they were talking walking trails, they were talking a community building with a gym and a pool and a ball field. So it was quite a community that they were.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, if they go to 2 duplex units, they're gonna put more units in, right? If they go to
Yep.
triplexes, they're still gonna, but I still think aesthetics doesn't make any difference in that sense, right? They're going to 255 units, bedrooms, so whether it's triplexes or quadplexes, they still can make it look good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And the architect that they had engaged seemed gifted at doing that very thing.
Right, yep. So, and another point would be, okay, if I have less buildings, then, I mean, it's probably less on the town, fire and police and all that sort of stuff, so.
I think fire and police is based on, I mean, it's bedroom capacity.
Yeah, it's the bedroom capacity.
Square feet and area.
The requirement for service is gonna be unchanged because the bedroom count doesn't change.
Yeah.
There would be, from a fire perspective, there would be more responsibility on the builders for that middle unit, for fire block walls and all that kind of stuff, and then it's more dangerous for guys like me to go in there and fight those middle units.
Yeah, but we want them to build it right anyways, right? So it doesn't, that's not even a
Kind of the whole
consideration.
point of us.
I don't think that was an issue.
But I'm just looking at it as saying, you know, if we have an ordinance now, and it kind of, how could I, constrains the growth a little bit?
This won't constrain the growth.
Well, you do 3 now, and then you do 2 now, and then somebody else is gonna do 2. And then somebody else is gonna do, okay, I wanna have, you know, all over the town, right? So it's just a matter of time.
Because this was gonna be condos, so it was, the roads and everything were gonna be private.
Right.
So that wasn't gonna affect the town at all.
But that was just what they were proposing. Doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't propose that they be public roads.
Right.
Right.
There's no, there's no way to ensure that.
Yeah.
So, discuss further, stop discussing, leave it the way it is, change it? What are you all thinking?
I would be in favor of changing it with language similar to or exactly what Glenn has proposed here.
Do we have anywhere else in town that we require multifamily to be 3?
No, because
Okay.
the only
Because there aren't any.
multifamily zone we
Right.
have is this one.
Yeah.
So
This will be the only one.
So it's not gonna create an unfair situation where, well, you did it for them.
Well,
No, and actually,
we have
anywhere in
multifamily,
town,
we
you
have
can do
multifamily on
duplexes.
Reynolds Ridge.
You can do duplexes anywhere in town
Yep.
presently.
Right, any road residential.
Except in the multifamily district.
Well, that's just silly.
Yeah,
Well, it's because the multifamily district was predicated upon state guidance that didn't, you know,
Yeah.
wasn't
Wanted to
striving for
encourage
duplexes.
apartment buildings. That's
It was
what-
just striving for larger density.
and our density is set no matter which way the look
Right in that
goes.
zone, it's set.
I just see this allowing more flexibility for the applicants to do exactly what we just saw, and I don't see the downside of that.
I'm kind of with Robin on that. I'm
Alex?
not sure how the 3, no personal offense, I don't know how making it a triplex solves an issue of growth versus not growth. Same amount of bedrooms, same amount of units, same amount of people come into town, whether it's public roads or private roads, that I understand could be an impact.
So it protects the town to say, listen, you have to do it this way. Instead of doing duplexes in a multifamily location, you have to build a triplex. And the reason for that is because we want to kind of restrict who goes in there. Who's gonna spend the big money? If we do duplexes, it's gonna be all over the town.
Duplexes are presently allowed in all.
I know, but it's just a matter of time where it starts to spread, right? I mean, we're seeing it now.
But they could have done 8 plexes
Right, but
if they wanted to.
same amount of bedrooms though, right? So they still can make it look good, right? It's still gonna be the same thing, but it just limits the people that are gonna come in and grow that particular area.
Basically, it provides slightly more affordable housing options. And whereas if you let people do nothing but, say, duplexes, this one has the other options, the 10 and the 18 unit buildings. But you're saying that's a high price point. That's why the developers like that. That saying 6/7 of the units there are going to be duplexes. They get more money. People who are going in there aren't getting affordable housing, and not by the state division of affordable.
Look at the one that's on Page Road. That guy bought a trailer, and he put 2 duplexes in there, and he sold it for $1 million. And they're ugly. To me, they're ugly. I mean, it's better looking than the trailer, but.
Forgive me, as obviously this is day one. Was this intended to be an affordable housing project?
No.
from the start?
No, they specifically said they were not interested in meeting the state requirements for affordable housing.
And the 10-unit and 18-unit buildings that were coming forward are similar to the ones that are in Exeter. And, I mean, they're selling for $500,000, the 2-bedroom units.
There's a community in Newbury, Mass. I don't know if anybody's super familiar with it, but
You can't say that.
no, I'm serious because it applies to this. It is a triplex community built by C.P. Berry. It's called Caldwell Farms. And each of these triplex units, there's probably 64 to 70 units in the complex itself, with a community pool, with a community house, in a circular development. And each one of those things sells for well over $1 million. So I don't think that making it a triplex versus a duplex is going to have that much of an implication on price as much as I do the finishings of the actual development itself. So from my standpoint, I see if this developer came in, put a beautiful design plan together for attractive, desirable, affordable or not affordable housing in Kingston, I don't see why we would hinder their approach to do that.
Yeah, I don't, it's the same amount of bedrooms, but I'm just saying that, hey, let's try to limit the people or the developers coming in so that we can say, okay, you know, there's certain requirements that you need to meet, right? If we just open the door to everything, then everybody's gonna be doing it.
So you're saying you want to limit housing, period, in Kingston?
Well, no, I'm not wanting to limit housing. What I'm saying is limit the development of Kingston to some degree, right? Or at least restrict it to something that is manageable, right? So, I mean, again, 250 bedrooms, 255 bedrooms in duplexes. I mean, that's a lot of housing.
It is.
That's a lot of housing.
To be built in phases, I think, though.
Yeah.
Was it phased?
Yeah.
Usually something like that big is phased,
Yeah.
similar to what they did next to the county home.
Yeah, and don't they have this kind of stuff in East Kingston where the,
Yeah.
what's that,
Cricket.
yeah, right across from the Jewetts, or behind Jewetts.
Yeah,
Old Mapleville Farms, right.
Yep. Yep.
So, but I mean, those are triplexes too, and even quads,
Some of them are quad, some of them are tri, some are duplex,
and they make it look good in there.
and some are single. So, Ellie, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking no change.
Okay.
Just for the paperwork, no, right? No, I know, I'm sorry, that was,
I just looked at the plan for January, it was a beautiful project.
it was, and we
I
tried,
think, I admit, I think they could make it work.
they can, and they said so.
Bob?
Growth is gonna come whether we like it or not, and part of the reason I'm here is just to make sure it's structured. And to his point on C1 with the multi-families, I'm not opposed to leaving it at 3. I mean, 2, 3, well, let's leave one section where they gotta build 3.
Yeah.
mean, to me, it's aquifer. You know what I mean? How much water can come in? What do the wells look like? Because like you said, it's coming. It's not gonna hold up. Southern New Hampshire is the place the whole world wants to live.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we have the density, as we've been saying all along, that the septic handling and the aquifer and everything else is all based on the number of bedrooms and also the number of units because of the number of kitchens, but it doesn't, the number of units really won't change at all, whether you have a duplex or triplex. I agree that you know, if the state says multifamily is 5 or more, I don't think we're off base by saying at least 3 or more. And you know, from a semantic standpoint, you know, you got to question why a duplex isn't multifamily, since it's 2 families. But from a planning standpoint, I think we have the basis to say 3 is what we're going to give, and it's more lenient than the state requirement.
What sticks in my heart, I know it was a beautiful subdivision. Those plans said apartments. Those plans did not say condos. They said apartments, and that scares me. That concerns me.
Yeah, I think too much is made.
Stop that either, but
I think too much is made about the difference between apartments and condos, because you know, you get 18 units in a building. They're really what we think of as an apartment. It's just that the ownership is condominium as opposed to.
But there's some people have stakes in their condominiums. There's people that want to basically make sure that people that live in apartments, they don't care. They just don't.
the reality to that is that is true. But again, no, I mean, I almost want to say apartments used to be cheaper. Well, they're not cheaper anymore.
We have ADUs now. I mean, every house in town could put in an ADU.
Right.
That's an apartment.
Concord stuff scares me.
And I think we're going down the wrong road if we start doing more and more of that. Let's just control it a little bit for a little bit longer. You know, 20 years from now, then everybody's gonna be saying, yeah, okay, everybody can have a condo.
Okay, so it looks like we've got like a 4-3 vote, and we're gonna put that aside for now. Definitely. Table. The other thing was roof height requirements. There's been a discussion about the roofs can't be any higher than certain for fire reasons. We don't have a ladder truck in town, we don't have this, we don't have that. In order to fight the fires, then the roof has to be no bigger than. But there are people that want to put bell towers or, you know, cupolas and things like that above that are not occupied. And is that something that we want to explore, to allow that aesthetic?
Well, if they want to do it now, they go and get special permits.
They go to the zoning board.
Yeah,
But they don't have a hardship, so they can't,
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
the-
qualify at the zoning board because there's no hardship. You can build that building without a cupola or without a bell tower because there's no hardship, so the zoning board can't approve it.
So what's the height now?
It depends, it's 30, 35, or 40, 45, depending on what district you're in and what type of building you're making, and that's another problem. If we're saying that a commercial building can be 45 feet, but in the same district, a residential building can only be 30 feet.
Yeah.
And it was, just happened to be one of the guys on the planning board who was a firefighter and just kind of thought that was a good number for residents. And since then, the opinion is, of the fire department at least, is that as long as there's nobody living above the 30 foot or 35 foot, whatever number they came up with, height, they are perfectly fine with sloped roofs or, you know, all the bell towers, whatever, that doesn't bother them at all. And quite frankly, if they're going to be able to get in to the roof of a 500,000 square foot warehouse without a ladder, then the, probably 10 feet difference in roof height isn't gonna make a big difference, because they're not gonna be going up there to pull people out of the windows of, at 45 feet, they're gonna be pulling them out at 35 feet windows. So, I'd like to see it go up, based on maybe good recommendations of the fire department, what they'd like to see, and to say that, residential, habitable spaces, there you go.
Keep
Spaces.
them above 35 feet or 40.
Exactly.
Whichever the fire department is comfortable with.
Exactly, I would love to see that,
And we should, that should be a zoning change, so that it
Exactly.
doesn't go to the CBA.
Correct.
If it's a
Exactly.
non-habitable area. If it's a non-habitable area, it doesn't need to go to you. Our zoning ordinance says you can build it.
you can build it, and it would save us all that headache of trying to come up with a decision, trying to make something happen
It absolutely would.
without breaking the law, and that would be great.
Are we all in sort of agreement that that would work?
It could work if you talk to the fire department.
Well, let's
Yeah,
just say, so
yeah.
why don't we have the fire
And that
department
was
come to our next
That's
meeting
where
in
those height
June?
things came in the first place, was from the fire department, so I think we could get Graham and
Yeah,
Would Pedro have input on structural integrity, maybe for augmentation of roof beams that would support that extra weight, depending
Yeah.
on how big that cupola
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
From a firefighter's perspective, I would be concerned about, it's like the same thing as a church steeple. We're always taught when you go into a church, stay away from the middle, because that thing's coming down into the church.
I did not know that.
They usually build them
Wow.
leaning in.
Plus,
So,
it shouldn't exceed the equipment the fire department, needs to fight a fire.
It would be like a code thing, but you're right.
Right.
We have 35-foot ladders.
Right.
And when
If
they're
you-
leaned
right.
at a 45-degree angle, they really only touch
Yeah.
28 or 30 feet.
Right. And
So-
if that's the equipment that we have, that's the limit that's.
well, we have mutual aid. I mean, Brentwood's got one.
Hampstead has
Hampstead has them. I mean, they're close to, we have, Exeter has one, so there certainly, there are ladder trucks.
Talk to the chief.
So I think, I was gonna say, why don't we have the chief come to our first meeting in June, and let's have a discussion and move that.
Yeah.
And keep, keep the aesthetic, but keep it away from zoning board, since they have to deny
Yeah,
it.
I would agree with that. The question is can we have a bigger ladder truck in the fire department now?
Trust me, we would love one.
Okay.
And
When
if
that
any of
warehouse
these, I was
comes
gonna
in.
say, when any of these communities
talk
come in,
about that.
and that's a huge point of,
Yeah,
somebody, you mentioned it having a carrot.
yeah, they're over $1 million.
That's a big time carrot.
You'll have the impact fees from that
Yeah.
puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start doing that.
Big toy, big toy.
If the Supreme Court allows it to continue, impact fees, so we'll see. Okay. We had affordable housing on here.
Let's not go there either.
That's kind of what we were talking about, the workforce
I think we
housing.
have.
Yeah,
I think we don't need to go there. The other thing I noticed was.
So,
Robin-
so can I just make one comment about
Yeah.
that? I mean, can we even claim that if we're just doing triplexes, that's kind of affordable housing?
No, no. So the way you define affordable is 80% of the median, you have to be able to afford the home if it's within 80% of the median income of the community.
Well, the good news is Kingston is on the upper end of that scale for Rockingham County, so,
Yeah.
there you go.
So
So
the-
then all the more we should try to limit the building aspects of this,
Exactly.
to keep the price high.
We pay a lot of money in taxes to maintain the quality
Yeah.
of life in our town.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
So there was one more thing that I noticed. Robin, of course, gave us all the changes to our zoning books. You can put them all in your zoning book. Thank you very much, Robin, for doing that. But as I was going through and putting them in, I noticed something. So in our, now it used to be innovative zoning, is now conservation open space zoning. In one section of there, it says that the number of bedrooms per unit shall not exceed 4 bedrooms per unit. So the issue I have with that, if you can only have 4 bedrooms per unit, is that somebody has a 4-bedroom unit and now they want to put on an ADU.
our ADU ordinance, I wish I could have remembered this when you and I talked yesterday. I remember it this morning because I looked at the ADU ordinance.
Oh, good.
We don't allow them in our conservation district.
Perfect.
It still says innovative zoning, but since we changed and there is no innovative zoning anymore, that phrase is an editorial change to make it what we do.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Good.
That's not a zoning change, it's just we just have to change it away from innovative zoning to what we decided we want to call it in March.
Yeah, right, but I'm just saying, no, my concern was, even if it was still innovative zoning, if they had a maximum of 4 bedrooms, you know, was it going to affect the ADU law? That was perfect. I feel good with that. Anything else to come before the meeting?
So,
I have one thing.
can I just clarify that? Are we making an editorial change to that?
Yeah, we have to not call it innovative zoning because we don't have innovative zoning.
All right, so
Right.
making it, can we just do it, you need a vote, or
Nope.
we can just do it?
We can just do it.
I mean, the planning board could direct us to do that because it's an editorial change that needs to happen. There's no problem with that.
But we don't even need to do that, that can just be
But
Right.
we can literally do that. That's
without, as a.
So we'll just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Make it happen,
Yep,
make it so.
perfect.
Can I just ask before I throw things away? This document that you gave us is a lot thinner than what I have in here, so is it safe to assume it's not a full substitution? It is not. So I've got to go section by section? Yeah. Okay.
Do we have that in the PDF?
I do, I'm actually making you a book and,
And Liam.
Liam a book. It just takes me a while to copy it. They are online, they are all updated online now. And yes, it's not one PDF, it's separate files.
So the one thing that Robin did do for the planning board only was she
You got
put the
colors.
changes in red.
Okay, I was wondering if I.
So you could see exactly what the changes were this year.
Love that too.
So that was all good. Okay, Glenn.
I have to ask one thing.
Yeah.
And I should have asked this 2 months ago. There's a person who wants to switch a unit at Church Street Station from a beauty salon. Is there a beauty salon there now?
There was a beauty salon
There
there.
was a beauty salon. The one that was a beauty salon, she'd like to change it to a pet grooming facility.
She came in. Yeah, we did.
Oh, did we already?
Yeah, we
talk
did.
about it?
She was
I
here.
thought I had forgotten to talk about it.
No, it was in the April 2nd minutes.
Thank you, Lord. So the mistake I thought I made, I didn't make?
Right, but you made a mistake in thinking you made a mistake. That was-
I don't remember, because I wasn't at that meeting.
No, you weren't. So
I
it's-
missed that
We
meeting.
want to talk about the Kingston Pizza Place?
no, we
Let's
did-
consult the minutes.
Well, we talked, because I remember asking if there was any regulations similar to hairstyling that applied to pet grooming, and she said no, pet grooming didn't have any other septic requirements.
Correct.
Because they don't have what you said, the rinses and dyes and.
It's the
curls.
Kingston Plaza at 160 Main Street, Unit B. Is that the
Oh,
same?
that's across the street. So
Property?
that's not
Oh,
Church
no,
Street
that's
Station.
it's a different one.
Oh, okay.
Potentially a new.
Directly across the street from each other? Ooh, this
We have
seems
more
like
dog
reality
grooming
TV in the
places in
making.
town.
So.
I'm here for it.
So, that does not come into play, so stop that nonsense right now. So similarly, we would not require her to do a new site review.
Oh, yes, it's the same thing, yeah. In fact, it's even better set up because it wasn't a hairstyle.
It
salon.
wasn't, beautiful, beautiful, thank you. You can let people go home to the fourth quarter.
Okay.
We're just.
So we have one more thing.
Oh, God, do we really?
We really do, but it's really a quick one. Everything for the Verizon tower, we have their latest updates and all of this. They have complied, the cell tower. They have, I understand, complied with everything that we asked for. Robin suggested that one person from the board go through and check and make sure that everything was done as it should be. I'm not that person because I missed 2 of the cell tower meetings. So,
And Glenn's already gone through it, right?
Maybe I should go through.
Yeah, you haven't.
I think he's the one with the experience. He's done 30 of them.
And I haven't, I will do that.
So go through,
That done at the next meeting?
they're coming in the next meeting, right? They're on the
Yeah,
agenda for the next
Yes.
meeting? Yes.
So I will send you, I will do it before, well before that. Okay. I'll try to do it on Thursday, but maybe.
Ron, they sent you the tolling agreement, right? The tolling-
Yes.
Yeah, they sent that to you, yeah.
Will Dennis have a view into that also?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he will.
So my question was, is they gave us these nice packages, this will probably be your final look. Does anyone want a package to take home to have time to look before the meeting? If you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Is it one of those tree-looking towers?
See, I wanted the tree.
No.
I wanted the tree.
The trees.
The neighbors didn't,
No, they don't want no tree.
No,
no tree. The
we
neighbors did
discussed
not want a
that
tree.
quite a bit. Their
If you had
tree
seen the
doesn't look like a
proposed
tree.
Photo, it didn't, it looks like a fake Christmas tree.
It looks like a toilet brush.
That was what I remember. Toilet brush is what, a green toilet
It
brush.
would, when everything else grew around, it would have looked fine.
Would you want that in your backyard?
But
We
then
already
when-
went over this. We're not going down that.
Let's
rabbit
not
hole.
redo
I've
this.
had a radiation
Nope,
study done.
nope.
But not at the public hearing. so you can't
Let's
talk.
call the meeting back to order.
I did have something about the master plan we talked about last year, doing a chapter. Theoretically, we should be doing about one chapter a year to stay on a rotation of getting the whole thing done within the required amount of time. But I would suggest we ask Glenn to take a quick look and see what you think is the most out of date, or maybe most in need of revising, and maybe we could have a small subcommittee just to,
It would be the housing chapter. I don't even have to look.
oh, okay.
And we should wait until after we find out what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's.
We haven't made any changes in 15 years, and housing has drastically changed.
I was gonna say, it just doesn't, moving.
We said a lot of
And an announcement that Robin knows about, but we're starting these every 2-year review of the 10-year plan for the Transportation Advisory Committee. And we take the town will receive something pretty soon, but if there's any plans, any ideas for improving transportation that we'd like to get funding for, that should go in as a package, and you contact RPC, and Scott Bogle or Dave Walker will give you some idea, but maybe
That's a question for Phil.
Phil, but it's also one of the new ideas is you can put in a program for community transportation, like for older people, or people driving people, because we're trying to get that going here, and that can go in as a request. It's not likely to get funded because of the matrix we're using to evaluate projects, but at least if it gets in there, it could work its way closer to getting some funding.
So that would mean that old people would need to have places to go.
Yeah, usually it's the grocery store.
I was gonna say Brickyard Plaza.
Well, yeah, that doesn't happen to be in Kingston, but they start in Kingston.
Yeah.
They just go to
Doctor's
places
appointments is a big,
outside of
yeah.
Kingston.
It's just straight shot up
Okay.
and down 125.
Okay, I just want to make the
Talking
announcement.
about slippery slopes?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go there. If that,
Talk about transportation and funding. Just be very careful with the federal government, what they sneak in there on the back end of those agreements, saying,
Yep.
we can control a bit of your zoning in town if you take our money.
That's
really
right.
smart. It's real.
It is very real.
That's a big concern, right? But we send a letter to the housing people in Concord to say, stay out of our housing.
That's the
the
job of our
legislature.
reps, and they've been pretty much doing that. But it's done with the House, now it's up to the Senate. A lot of things were killed in the House, but some of them are still moving on.
You start letting Concord run your town in your Massachusetts, that scares me.
Well, the reason they are,
With anything.
the reason they're doing that is because with the lack of affordable housing, there's a lack of workers to work in the industries that are already in New Hampshire, not to mention the ones that want to come in, and because there's so few workers, our economy they're really concerned that our economy is going to have an issue with everyone aging and no one to take care of them, and just the workers in the factories and everything else. The people that
I want Concord to run, none of it.
well, I'm just saying, that's their concern. They know that they expect by 2040 to have, what, 80,000 unit shortage. Right now, there's a 30,000 unit shortage, and by 2030, they expect it to be a 40,000 unit shortage.
Let them live in Massachusetts.
But in that same respect.
But Massachusetts has a $400,000 unit shortage, so it's all the
That should
same.
be a decision.
That's why they're
town
coming
makes,
here.
And not Concord. I mean,
Well,
God
Concord,
forbid you mention Massachusetts, but there's a big difference between living in Boxford and living in Newburyport.
I think what you're seeing in Concord is that the majority of the people that are there are very much for local control. Almost all of them are for local control. If you talk to any of your state reps, you'll see that they're all pretty much for local control. The ADU thing was a way of sort of getting around it. The other thing that they're trying to weigh local control versus not is with the B&Bs. I mean, not the B&Bs, Airbnb. Yeah, because too many communities have those. But I was talking with a person with 2 children who was recently divorced and has no place to live. And she's been, on the days that she has children, she's renting a Vrbo with no money. She's a aide at a nursing home. And on the other days, the days her husband has a kid, she's sleeping in her car. So, and she's someone working hard, trying to raise her kids, doing the best she can. And we do need some affordable housing for people that are good people.
But you don't know what you get.
You don't. I know. Well, you're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about workforce housing. Yeah, you're right. There's 2 different things. There's workforce and there's affordable. And they're 2 separate entities.
She's talking like $250,000 to $400,000 house.
Yeah, we're talking about people that are our firefighters that are making $40,000 a year, our school teachers that are making $40,000 a year. 2 incomes makes 80, and that qualifies you for 80,
Who's gonna build it?
Well, that's the problem.
Nobody's gonna build it.
I know. That's why we're in
Hence
crisis.
the housing crisis, and we got full circle on that one.
Dangerously close to the rabbit hole we went down last time.
I mean, it's just, again,
I don't have a flight to catch this time, but.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
You don't even need a motion.
Okay, we declare the meeting adjourned.